As my name and accent suggests, I'm Irish. I grew up in Ireland. And my first major career was in healthcare. I was an intensive care nurse specialising in cardiac surgery. So I did my training in Ireland and then moved to London, to the National Heart Hospital in London, which at the time, and still is, one of Europe's leading cardiac surgical research centres and hospitals. So I worked in transplants, in cardiac surgery and cardiac grafting. So a really interesting part of the world, and I was lucky enough to work with some of the best cardiac surgeons that Europe had. From there I moved to Australia in 1995 and initially started working in hospitals in South Australia and then moved into hospital management and worked my way through those routes. Moved to Sydney and I had my first major career change. I went into a medical sales company, initially as a sales representative, but worked my way up and into the national sales and sales directing type roles. And those organisations I worked for specialise in medical capital equipment, so selling into hospitals. From there, I moved another career change. I moved into headhunting, so specialising in sales and marketing functional heads for the medical and pharmaceutical industry. And I was lucky enough to work in one of the most prestigious organisations in Australia at that time, so I got to work with some really great and interesting clients. So while I was in that organisation, I did an MBA with a major in leadership and came across the idea of executive coaching, which was quite new to me and also new in Australia. And I moved full-time into that capacity 9 years ago. I set up my first executive coaching business and 4 years ago formed an alliance with Price International and brought the Price brand to Australia. The executive coaching market is an emerging and a competitive market. And Price International are very unique in our offering in Australia and internationally. First of all, we are international. There's actually very few international executive coaching firms, and that stands to us. Two, we very much come with a commercial edge. Of our 100+ executive coaches worldwide, at least 90 have come out of very senior business roles. So we get business, and that's why we work with senior executives. Thirdly, we totally understand and totally believe that coaching qualifications and credentials are very important for this. So we have a huge mandate internally for credentialing and education. So as an example, even in Sydney alone, 6 of our current coaches have either completed or are completing the master's degree in coaching psychology. It's a big effort and a big commitment to that. Fourthly, we apply coaching in lots of different ways. So traditionally, coaching has been a one-on-one process. We believe the application of coaching can go much further than that. So we've been involved in some very innovative projects. As example, recently in Australia, where we're currently involved with the ASX 200 Chairman's Mentoring Program, where we're involved in coaching some of those mentees on that program behind the scenes. Done the same thing in England and in other parts of the Price world. We also apply coaching across leadership teams and across external boards. So we believe coaching can be applied in lots of different ways and do so. And lastly, we're also involved in qualitative research in different parts of the world. So we bring a very unique and a very distinct offering to the coaching market. One of the really important developments in the executive coaching industry in the last number of years has been the professionalism and the increase of coaching standards. And I'm really pleased to say that Price International was the first executive coaching firm globally to mandate external supervision for all its coaches. What that means is that our coaches are supervised in a similar way to a psychologist would be or a therapist would be externally, which means that we've been held accountable to the highest standards possible. In my own coaching practice, I spend my time doing a mixture of one-on-one coaching and team coaching. So with my one-on-one clients, they typically tend to be either functional heads, functional directors, country leaders, and in some cases Asian regional leaders for particular organizations. And typically I will work with someone on either the leadership effectiveness, their post-360 degree feedback. Maybe they're moving from a stretch role and therefore want some help on onboarding to new roles. Sometimes they're striving aspirationally wise for new roles, so helping them to develop a broader skill set. Sometimes they've inherited a dysfunctional team. But either way, my role is to help them become better in their leadership of that area. In terms of team coaching, I do a lot of work with dysfunctional executive teams and helping them to move from what they describe as being a dysfunctional space to hopefully a good and sometimes a great space. And that means working with them on their overall strategy, their execution of that strategy, the alignment to that, and increasingly their dialogue and the openness and transparency of that amongst the members of that team. And that requires me to work with them as a group, as well as individuals in that group. My claim to fame, if I have one, I played in a band in Ireland called The Storm, and one of my favourite gigs where we headlined, we were supported by an upcoming band from Limerick. They were called the Cranberries. They went on to great things, and we didn't.